All right, so it looks, we're going to talk about disasters. Put your seatbelt on. Actually, the original sentence that I had provided for this, and I sort of shied away, but I need to tell you, is that given the chance to be amazing, people will rise to the occasion. So I'm going to talk about really scary things that have happened in the past month. And I just want to frame that as saying we'd like to just turn away from that. And Sarah talked about some of the denial that we experience and how we don't like to know. I mean, in California, we are deep in earthquake denial. We put the climate change deniers to shame, like at least they know there's something to deny. We just pretend it doesn't happen at all. And I grew up that way, I grew up here, but what I've found is that looking at what actually happens in a disaster is both soothing in that you know, okay, this is a thing that happens and what are the mechanisms and what I do to respond, but more importantly, to see how people actually behave and some of the ways that we can take lessons learned from how people behave and change society and change our buildings and change the way we do everything. So these are some examples. This is, obviously you've all heard about this. In 1985, there was a huge earthquake in Mexico. More than 4,000 people died, buildings destroyed. We found at that time that buildings, there were very lax and poorly enforced, if any, building codes. There was a very unprepared, disorganized government and very little civil society. Oh crap, this goes so fast. And in the more recent, literally, right? In the more recent disaster, we saw that civil society had stepped up, that building codes were in place, and so there was still a huge loss of life, but a fraction of what you would have expected. That building retrofits are critically important and this stuff works. Similarly, in Katrina, what we saw was that the responders, FEMA and others, were not only unprepared, but were hostile to civic participation and shut them down and left people in jails, refused to let people cross bridges, refused to let people help each other. There's this sort of mentality that comes from disasters of shoot looters on sight. And we didn't see that in these past disasters. There's been a movement towards community prepared or community engaged emergency response. And it's everything, it's critical. And so, the Cajun Navy is another example. And this is an example of the private sector stepping up, and this is something I hope that we can embrace as a green building movement, is grocery stores like H-E-B grocery store was prepared. It had facilities, it knew how to restructure and rework its bakeries that normally produce 18 different kinds of lovely baked goods. People have a role to play, but we also have to work with a lot of other stakeholders because we don't know how to do community engagement, we don't know how to do social equity very well, and to really do that we need partners to work together, and we have